Hi friends, welcome back. So CPI data came out today and it was hotter than expected. I want to go through some of the headlines, share my thoughts and get yours as well. So first, Dow falls 700 points to session lows on hotter than anticipated inflation data. And moreover, S&P 500 set for worst CPI day since September 2022. So it's been a while since we've had essentially a surprise and not in a good way. And it was interesting because I was actually reading a bunch of kind of headlines before the data came out, and Wall Street, was basically trying to convince me that we've beaten inflation. We're going to get that soft landing. Everything's going to be hunky dory. And even actually on February 9th, a couple days ago, we came out with this. It says inflation in December was even lower than first report. That was according to the government. So, all the things are trying to convince me that things were okay. This is sort of where you really need to read everything and understand what's going on. Moreover, this is an example of what I thought was the funniest headline just recently. Here you can see it for yourself, and this is where you got to read everything. Jeff Bezos just sold $2 billion in Amazon stock. That doesn't mean you should sell too. This is a real headline, and that's why it's funny to read this stuff. So basically saying, hey guys, even though the billionaires are selling, and actually Zuckerberg was selling also, pay no attention to what they do. Just you keep buying while they're selling. And it kind of felt like the same sort of thing to where, the before the data comes out, it was expected to, that inflation was going to cool, etc. And it turned out to be this, surprise in the wrong direction for Wall Street. And again, I was reading this stuff and it's like, wow, they're starting to have me convinced that things are going in the right direction. Now, I think inflation is tough to beat. They're going for that 2% year over year thing, and at the moment prices on many things are still elevated, as I told you guys before. So even if inflation levels off, if you're still struggling in your neck of the woods, be it with housing prices or car insurance, as we'll talk about, is really expensive, or food prices, etc., right? You still feel it. Or if your wage gains haven't quite caught up to inflation. The other thing is too, it depends also on your neck of the woods, right? So like here's a headline here: soft landing is global, but it's cushiest in America. If for example, you're in a war zone, right, in Europe, like if you're in Ukraine or Russia or nearby, right, you're feeling the effects of this. If you're in the Middle East, of course, you're feeling the effects of war. I can just tell you here, we're in Korea. We feel the effects of the China slowdown, where everyone else is gonna feel that also. So it just depends, and maybe for some Americans, it feels like everything's okay, but also it depends on what part of the USA. It also depends on your job security, et cetera. And we're gonna go through some more stuff here. And if you've been following my channel the last couple of days, I've been wondering, is this the top? Because you can see this here. Bitcoin was flirting with 50,000. We had that crazy run up with ARM stock, but it seems to be cooling off today, and we may have just seen the top in these kind of things. Moreover, we take a look at headlines like this. Soft landing seems likely, but Americans would still have to deal with unaffordable housing. This is something that we got to talk about, right, all the time, is the housing market, both commercial and residential. Residential being unaffordable for many people, especially for young people, which we talk about a lot of times on this channel, where they keep saying like the age of first-time home buyers keeps going up. And the commercial real estate looks to be a time bomb, which we'll talk about in a moment. And we can take a look at the actual numbers here. CPI month over month, it was estimated to be at 0.2, came in at 0.3. Core CPI estimate was 0.3, came in at 0.4. CPI year over year estimate was 2.9, it came in at 3.1. And then core CPI estimate was 3.7% and came in at 3.9. So hotter than expected. And we'll take a look at the actual chart here. You can see you have your core and then your with all items, etc. And it's between 3 and 4. You guys can see that. We just went over the numbers, but you can see the chart for yourself. So it seems that inflation is at least kind of leveling off, but not necessarily just going straight down in a line. So when the data came out, bond yield spiked. You guys can see that here. There's a spike. And if you're trying to play this thing like the moment the data comes out, you're going to lose because the algorithms like trigger right away, basically. And this is something I track personally, is just the dollar to the won. So the dollar still looks to be really strong. Generally, how I think about this is, 1100 is kind of your par, basically. 1200 means a strong dollar. 1300 is a very strong dollar. If it hits 1400, it's like crazy strong dollar. And the dollar like really spiked during the great financial crisis. So we'll see if we end up in those levels again. But I do track this stuff. And then here's something else that I track. This is the Nikkei. So this is the Japanese market. And you can see here, Nikkei briefly breaches 38,000 for the first time since 1990 as it rallies 3% near all-time high. And this is actually the chart of the Japan market. And you can see basically there was a crazy bubble back in the late 80s, 90s. And then the market basically tanked for a long time. I mean, you can see it's just now hitting back those levels again. The question is, would the U.S. do a similar kind of move? I mean, our market's been just going up and up and up and up and up. Now, things that don't go up forever, and certainly we've seen slowdowns with layoffs and things like that. The difference between the U.S. and Japan, demographic-wise, is different, right? So if you look at, I'm talking about not just Japan, but Japan, Korea, China, you're having a slowdown in demographics, where the U.S. Slowdown in demographics, meaning birth rates, right? Is the population growing? These kind of things. I've told you guys before on the channel where in the U.S. situation is different. We may see population decline in like 2070, so that's a little bit of a ways from now, maybe a generation from now. But you can see in the numbers, and so just think about of it this way is. If the population is growing and you need more room for more people to live, then that would certainly be good for the real estate market, something like that. Whereas if the population is shrinking, you don't need to be building or buying new homes, right? This is sort of like how we look at these kind of things. If you want to look at the actual things that are going on in the U.S. Inflation, the actual categories that are going up, you can see it right here. So for whatever reason, juice and drinks are expensive. I'm actually just not sure why. If you guys have an answer for that one, please let me know and share in the community. It's right there. It could be a combination of maybe fruit is high, maybe the process of making it. But yeah, juices and drinks are up there. Uncooked beef steaks, 10.7%. Food from vending machines. It's funny all the stuff they track. Yeah, and I guess that includes mobile vendors. So I don't know if that includes your food trucks, those kind of things. Electricity is up 3.8%. Kind of the big ones, though, is motor vehicle insurance, 20.6% up. So, I mean, this has been just expensive. Repair of household items, admissions to sporting events. I was seeing some of the numbers coming out of Super Bowl, and some people are paying like really a lot of money to go to this thing. Or another example was veterinarian services. True story. I have a friend on Facebook who was just sharing like a cat got sick, a week or so ago. They decided to take the cat into surgery, and he was talking about that's like really expensive. He didn't post what it was on social media, what the cost was, but people are all comments are saying, yep, veterinarian stuff is really expensive these days. This kind of stuff, talking about inflation, is all going to depend on what you're spending your money on and where you are. The where you are situation, you can take a look at this. This is inflation around the country. So you can see it's on the west, right? So Washington, Oregon, California, and then you have inflation in the south. The interesting about the whole inflation situation is places like Florida, who have really high real estate where the prices keep soaring, hasn't quite crashed yet. And I'm actually surprised myself. I would imagine the Miami market, and I mentioned that one because that was part of the crypto bubble. Actually, the bunch of money went down there from New York and just all various places, and it's been in a bubble for a while. But it's similar to many big cities around the world, to where like how much higher can real estate prices possibly go. They're still elevated as of yet, so we'll see if that does cool down. I mean, you would expect it to you expect it to come down sometime, but not quite yet. However, regarding layoffs, there was some more announcements today. As guys, I always cover this stuff on the channel because I always say the same thing, right? Depending on what national numbers say, it's gonna be different than your situation. So if you're, say, working over at Mozilla, who makes Firefox, they're laying off, or if you're working over at Paramount, I mean, they announced big cuts. This was 800 jobs. It's about 3% of their workforce, and even though, because they were the ones who had the Super Bowl, which had crazy high ratings, so people are watching. But overall, they're getting hurt by cable, and people are moving over to streaming. The big thing though to watch, and I think this is probably the concern. So one is like valuations of the market seemed a little bit high, which I've talked about before on the channel. And also to the commercial property iceberg, which we can all see. Now we're estimating, what is this? Says commercial property loans coming due in the U.S. jumped to 929 billion. We watched that New York Community Bank. It's been really, really volatile. I mean, it's mostly been crashing, and then I saw an article to where like the CEO and some of the executives were buying the stock to try to, instill confidence in it. But that's a lot of it. What this game is confidence. But then also too, you just have just numbers to where, like for example, if prices stay elevated and Americans' credit card debt is too high, interest rates are high, then they have trouble making their payments the same way that if you're a commercial property developer and you're underwater, you're having trouble making payments as well. That's just a numbers game. But then you also have the confidence situation, which is essentially like, okay, I'm certain that my business is going to be great in the future, so I'm therefore going to invest in my company, or not, right? Or you like look at the numbers, and you don't have any confidence that, I don't think the business is going to come back to say, cable. I think it's all going to go streaming, et cetera, right? So it's a combination of, you got to look at the numbers, understand what's going on, and how confident people are feeling, and also to, how cheap it is to borrow money. These interest rates affect a lot of things. Plus, you have to pay attention to what's going around globally. The other thing I wanted to mention as well, which I thought was kind of an interesting one, I haven't had a chance to like really, really dig into it, but who knows? There's always some crazy crap going on with this guy. And I'm referring to Elon Musk here. So now there's a rumor going around that, is Starlink being used by Russia or not? Who knows? I'm just saying, I don't know. I'd have to really look into it. But even if I read through all the stuff, we may not necessarily ever know the truth in these kind of things. And then some weird stuff where Elon Musk is saying now, maybe we should stop helping Ukraine, etc. So I just letting you guys know everything that's going on in the markets with inflation, CPI. I'd like to hear your thoughts on this stuff, and always appreciate hanging out in the channel, and I do appreciate having you community. So thanks again for watching, and I'll catch you next video.